Every girl dreams of her wedding day. Mine was, cliché as it sounds, perfect. It was everything I had meticulously planned for 18 months. The rustic barn, the string quartet, the 3-tiered lemon cake, and standing there under the twinkling lights was Ethan. My Ethan. Handsome, charming, a successful engineer. He looked at me as if I were the only beautiful thing left in the world. We said our vows, we danced until our feet hurt. We opened the champagne. It was the absolute, undeniable peak of my life. The night ended with us stumbling back to the luxurious bridal suite, our pockets heavy with congratulations and our hearts, I thought, full of love and shared dreams. But a wedding isn't just a union of hearts. It's also a financial transaction. The honeymoon fund, the cash gifts from family, the checks from friends. It was a tangible start to our new life. The next morning, we were supposed to fly to the Maldives, a trip we had saved and planned for months. I woke up first wrapped in the crisp white sheets, the morning sun streaming in. I felt a joy so profound it was almost dizzying. I watched Ethan sleep for a few moments, admiring the slight frown he always got when he was dreaming. Everything was right with the world. Then I saw it. The small, worn leather briefcase where we had placed all the wedding cash and checks was open on the dresser. It was completely empty. I sat bolt upright, a cold knot tightening in my stomach. I got out of bed, adrenaline replacing the happy haze of the night before. Maybe Ethan had put the money somewhere safer, the safe in the room. I checked the safe. Empty. I went to the main door, checking the lock. Double locked. "Ethan," I whispered, shaking his shoulder gently. "Ethan, wake up. I can't find the wedding money." He stirred, his eyes blinking open, still thick with sleep. "Huh? What money, honey?" "The money, Ethan. The wedding gifts. The briefcase is empty. Where did you put it?" My voice was rising, starting to betray the panic I was desperately trying to suppress. He sat up. He didn't look confused or worried. He looked defeated, like a man facing a firing squad. He sighed, a deep rattling sound that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 secrets. He looked at the floor, not at me. "Clara, I need to tell you something. I should have told you before. I should have told you months ago, but I couldn't." My blood ran cold. This wasn't about missing money. This was about something huge, something rotten. "What is it, Ethan? Did someone break in? Is someone blackmailing us?" I grabbed his hands, forcing him to look at me. He finally met my eyes, and the shame and desperation in them were sickening. "The money is gone, Clara. But nobody stole it. I took it." You took it?" I repeated, my voice hollow. "Why? Where did you put it? Is it a surprise? Did you buy us something extravagant?" I was still trying to rationalize the situation, grasping for any explanation that wasn't catastrophic. "No, it was never for us. I used it to cover a debt." "A debt? What debt, Ethan? We have some student loans, but those are manageable. You have a great job." He took a shaky breath, the dam finally breaking. "Clara, I have a problem, a real problem. I'm a compulsive gambler." The phrase hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. Compulsive gambler. The words didn't fit the man I had married, the man who planned our future down to the last penny, who mocked friends for playing the lottery. "No, that's a lie. You never go to casinos. You hate poker nights," I said, shaking my head violently. "I don't go to casinos. I do it online. Sports betting, futures trading, high-risk stocks. It started small, a thrill. Then it got huge. I was always chasing the win, the big one that would pay off everything." He buried his face in his hands. How huge, Ethan? How much did you take from the wedding fund? Everything. Every check. Every dollar of cash. It was about $45,000. I took it last night after you went to sleep. I transferred it to my bookie immediately. $45,000. Our entire honeymoon. Our deposit for a down payment on a new house. Gone. But the worst was yet to come. I forced myself to be clinical. Okay, $45,000 gone. That's bad. But you said you used it to cover a debt. How much was the debt? He hesitated. A long, agonizing silence where the only sound was the frantic beating of my own heart. The debt. The total debt, Clara, is $80,000. The $45,000 from the wedding funds wasn't enough. It only covered the minimum payment and bought me 48 hours. I stared at him. $80,000. That was nearly all of my savings, the money I had inherited from my grandmother, which was safely tucked away in my separate account. $80,000? Ethan, are you insane? Where did you get that kind of debt? And who are these bookies? Are these dangerous people? He nodded, tears finally pooling in his eyes. They are. They are very dangerous. They showed up at my work last week, Clara. They threatened me. They said if I didn't pay the rest of the principal, the remaining $35,000 by tomorrow, they would come after us, after you. The threat was the catalyst. It snapped me out of my shock and right into a desperate, visceral panic. They would come after me. The Maldives flight leaves tonight. I can't leave, I whispered, the dream of the honeymoon dissolving into a nightmare. I have the rest of my grandmother's money. $35,000 in my personal account. Are you telling me I have to use my inheritance to pay off your secret, life-destroying gambling debt? Or these people will hurt me? He looked up, his face a mask of pleading anguish. I'm telling you there is no other way, Clara. I'm sorry. I love you. Please. I know I destroyed everything, but I need you to save me. Save us. The man who asked me to marry him 24 hours ago was now asking me to use my entire financial cushion to pay for his reckless secret life. My perfect marriage was a perfect lie, and the beautiful ceremony was just a fundraising effort for his bookie. I looked at the window. The sun was shining on the street outside. I was a bride, still wearing the engagement ring, trapped in a nightmare where my husband was not my partner, but my parasite. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. The sheer magnitude of the betrayal demanded a cold, clinical response. My survival instinct took over. The threat of them coming after us was the only thing that mattered. Love was irrelevant. I was in a negotiation for my safety. Get dressed, I commanded, my voice flat. We're going to the bank. Ethan looked stunned, relieved, and still utterly wretched. Clara, thank you. I don't deserve this. No, you don't. And this is not an act of forgiveness. This is a payment for my own protection, I retorted, pulling on clothes from my hastily packed overnight bag. We drove to my bank branch. The drive was silent, heavy with unspoken accusations. I felt like I was being chaperoned by my captor. We had to use my account. Ethan's was apparently already maxed out and under surveillance by the people he owed. I sat with the bank manager, a sweet woman named Mrs. Peterson, who had known me since I opened my first account. What a lovely wedding you had, Clara. The photos on social media were stunning, she chirped. How can I help you today? I forced a smile. Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. I need to make a very large, immediate transfer. $35,000 from my savings to another account. She raised an eyebrow, surprised by the urgency and the amount. $35,000? Are you wiring a deposit for a new house while you're on your honeymoon, dear? Something like that, I lied, the shame burning in my throat. I handed her the account number Ethan had scribbled on a napkin, a shady, untraceable number that certainly didn't belong to a legitimate lending institution. Ethan waited outside the office, pretending to browse the investment brochures, a pathetic figure who had gambled away his life and mine. The transfer went through. As the money left my account, the money my grandmother had left me specifically for a secure future, I felt a part of me die. That money represented security, independence, and my dreams. Now it represented Ethan's shame. We left the bank. I was now married to a man who had left me financially crippled on our first day. "It's done," I said to Ethan in the car. "Now you tell me everything, not just the debt, the entire truth, the name of the person you owe, and how this became so massive." Ethan, suddenly released from the immediate danger, became tearful and overly apologetic. He started talking, fast and rambling. The debt was owed to an underground syndicate, essentially loan sharks who ran illegal, high-stakes sports betting. He had started about 2 years prior, a few $100s here and there. He had kept meticulous records, a secret ledger on an old encrypted flash drive he kept hidden in a box of old college textbooks. The interest, Clara. It was insane. Every time I missed a payment, it doubled. I was trying to win back the principal, but the interest kept mounting. I took out loans, borrowed from colleagues. I even took a small advance on my annual bonus and lost that too. He confessed that he had borrowed money from his mother, a secret his parents didn't know, and lost that as well. He had been borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, only to have Paul raise the rates. Why didn't you just tell me? We could have gone to my parents, to a therapist, to the police. I was furious, not just at the debt, but at the sheer isolation he had imposed on us. Because the shame. You were planning the wedding, you were so happy. I thought I could fix it. I thought the last bet would be the one. I planned on winning big, paying them off, replacing the wedding money, and we would leave for the Maldives, and you would never know. His master plan was to use our wedding money as his final reckless stake. He had already lost the $45,000 before I even woke up. "The Maldives," I said, my voice dripping with scorn. "We're not going." "I can't look at you, let alone spend 2 weeks on a beach with you. I need space." "But Clara, we have to go. We can't cancel. Everyone will know something is wrong. We'll look like a failure," he pleaded. His concern wasn't about our failed marriage. It was about appearances. The perfect lie had to continue. I shook my head. "No. I need time. I need to think. I'll tell everyone I have a sudden medical issue, something discreet. You need to come home with me, give me the ledger, and then you need to go to a friend's house. I can't sleep in the same bed as you." He resisted, desperate to maintain the facade, but I was immovable. My ultimatum was simple. If you want even a sliver of a chance with me, you will go to your friend's house and you will start therapy immediately. I will handle the rest. We drove home. He retrieved the flash drive from the textbook box and handed it to me, the hidden ledger of his destruction. He packed a small bag and drove away, a man defeated. I was finally alone. Alone in our beautiful, expensive, empty apartment, married for less than 24 hours, and bankrupt. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. The file was a complex Excel spreadsheet. I opened it and stared at the numbers. The total debt of $80,000 was real. The transactions to the syndicate were clearly marked, but the ledger contained more than just the $80,000. It contained a history of every bet, every loss, and every source of money he had used. My eyes scanned the list. Student loan deferments, his father's credit card maxed out, and then I saw a line item that made my blood run cold, far worse than the gambling debt itself. Source: investment account, C. Sterling, $15,000. C. Sterling, Clara Sterling. My full name. The money was taken 6 months ago. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. I had a small, private investment account that Michael knew nothing about tucked away years ago. It held the small savings I had accumulated before my inheritance. I thought I had spent my inheritance money, the $35,000, to pay the debt. But the ledger showed the debt was $80,000, and $15,000 of it had been paid using my secret investment account. I opened my bank app. The $15,000 was gone. He didn't just spend the $45,000 wedding fund and ask for the remaining $35,000 inheritance. He'd already stolen $15,000 of my personal, completely separate savings without my knowledge or permission, bringing the total cost of his secret lie to $95,000. The financial betrayal was worse than he had confessed. The man I married wasn't just a gambler. He was a thief who had been planning to steal from me long before the wedding day. The discovery of the hidden $15,000 theft was the real breaking point. The wedding fund was shared money, but the investment account was mine. It was a calculated, secretive betrayal committed months before the wedding. He didn't just stumble into financial ruin. He planned the theft of my money with surgical precision. I reread the ledger, focusing on the timestamps of the transactions involving my account. The $15,000 was moved exactly 1 week before he proposed to me. He asked for my hand in marriage, while simultaneously funding his gambling addiction with my savings. The wedding wasn't a commitment, it was a desperate deadline. I called him, my voice shaking with a cold rage I didn't know I possessed. He was staying with his college friend, Mark. "You didn't tell me about the $15,000, I stated, skipping any greeting. Silence on the line. Then a pathetic whisper. "Clara, please. I was going to pay it back. I just needed one more big win." "You already spent the wedding money, Ethan, and you forced me to transfer the last of my grandmother's inheritance, which you still haven't paid me back for. You stole from me before you put a ring on my finger. You are not a partner. You are a criminal." He launched into a torrent of excuses, tears, and pathetic apologies, but I cut him off. "This is not just about the money anymore. This is about your character. You looked me in the eye, you said your vows, and you knew you were stealing my future. Did you ever think about us? Or was this entire wedding a financial transaction designed to bail you out?" "Clara, the wedding was real. My love for you is real. I panicked. I was desperate. I thought if I married you, the debt collectors would stop bothering me because I'd have a family and more time." His confession was chilling. He saw the marriage as a shield and a source of emergency cash. "You need to come home," I said, my voice dangerously even. "Now. I need to know every single detail about these bookies and every lie you told me about your income. Don't call me back. Just drive." He arrived an hour later, looking like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. He sat on the edge of the sofa, hands folded, completely submissive. For the next 4 hours, I interrogated him. He confessed that his successful engineering job was also a lie. He had been demoted 6 months ago due to frequent absences and poor performance, likely due to chasing bets. He was making significantly less than he told me, which explained why he started borrowing from his parents and taking money from my accounts. The bookies were indeed dangerous. He described a chilling encounter where they visited his office and showed him pictures of our apartment building. He was certain they were monitoring us. This detail solidified my decision. I couldn't divorce him yet. If I left him, the debt and the danger would still follow me, and he would have no one to rely on but me. I needed to ensure my safety first, and the only way to do that was to be in control of the information and the payment plan. "Listen to me, Ethan," I said, finally standing over him. "I am not forgiving you. I am putting you on probation. You will transfer full control of your remaining bank accounts to me. You will immediately enroll in an inpatient gambling rehabilitation program, and you will wear a GPS tracker. I need to know exactly where you are at all times." He readily agreed to everything. He was a broken man, desperate for someone else to carry the burden. As he was signing the papers granting me power of attorney over his finances, I noticed something small tucked away in his wallet, a non-refundable first-class ticket to the Maldives. It was printed with a return date for 1 week after our planned 2-week trip. "What is this?" I asked, holding up the ticket. "Our trip was 2 weeks. This is a one-way ticket for you, with a return date for 3 weeks from now. Why the difference?" He paled, the last shred of his carefully constructed facade finally crumbling. I was going to use the first week to try and win back the money in an offshore casino," he admitted, his voice a barely audible whisper. "The Maldives has high roller tables. I thought if I could win back the $95,000, I could surprise you, replace the cash, and we could still have the second week of our honeymoon thinking everything was fine." He had booked the flight after he stole the $15,000 from me, anticipating the need for an exit strategy. The wedding day wasn't the culmination of our love. It was the starting line for his final desperate attempt to fix his life with my money, followed by a risky solo gambling trip, leaving me alone. The depth of his arrogance and selfishness was breathtaking. He had intended to abandon me on our honeymoon while risking every penny we had left. "You weren't planning on taking me, were you? You were going to use the first week to gamble and then call me to join you for the surprise second week, only if you won," I accused. He just nodded, unable to meet my eyes. "I'm sorry, Clara. I was going to tell you I had a last-minute business trip for the first week. The Maldives, the symbol of our perfect love and future, was just another component of his elaborate, destructive lie. I realized I was married to a man who would throw me into a lion's den to save his own skin. I called the Maldives resort, canceled the reservation, and told them I had a serious family emergency. I told his parents and mine the same thing. The perfect facade of the marriage was maintained, but internally, the structure had completely collapsed. I looked at the power of attorney documents I now held. He had given me control of his life, but he had lost his right to be my husband. I was trapped, married to a man I now financially controlled, but whom I deeply despised. I spent the next 2 weeks operating purely in survival mode. Ethan was in an anonymous rehab facility 2 states away, wearing a GPS tracker I monitored obsessively. I was home, maintaining the perfect lie for the outside world, telling friends our honeymoon was delayed due to a minor medical complication. My days were dedicated to damage control. As his legal financial guardian, I systematically went through every aspect of Ethan's financial life. I contacted his bank, his employer, his creditors. The $95,000 to the syndicate was the tip of an iceberg I hadn't yet fully navigated. I discovered he'd been cycling multiple credit card balances, transferring them between 5 different cards to avoid hitting the minimum payments. He had taken out a personal loan that he hadn't told me about, using his car as collateral. The car, which I often drove, was nearly repossessed. I managed to stop it just in time, using the last of the wedding checks that hadn't been cashed by the bookies. The complexity of his deceit was exhausting. It wasn't just a compulsive habit, it was a complex criminal operation he'd run under the guise of being my loving fiancé. The biggest and most painful discovery came when I went through his mail. He had been forwarding a secondary bank statement to his office, but one arrived at the house, a joint statement for an account I didn't know existed. It was in his name and his mother's name, Patricia. I opened it. It contained a significant recurring withdrawal pattern over the last year, labeled simply family support. The total amount withdrawn was nearly $40,000. I remembered Ethan mentioning he had borrowed from his mother, which he quickly lost. But this account showed that he had been systematically emptying his mother's retirement savings, money she had worked hard for as a school librarian, and she had been covering for him. This was a new level of betrayal, one that involved not just my money, but the quiet collusion of his family. I called Patricia and asked her to meet me for lunch. I knew she would be nervous, but I had to get the truth from her. I chose a quiet cafe far from our neighborhood. Patricia arrived, a sweet, soft-spoken woman who looked completely strained. She immediately launched into a string of nervous questions about my medical issue. I looked her straight in the eye and put the bank statement on the table. "I know, Patricia," I said, my voice low and firm. "I know about the gambling, the debt, and the $95,000 he stole from me. But I need to know about this account, the $40,000. Did he empty your retirement fund?" Patricia's composure completely broke. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Oh, Clara, I tried to help him." I know I shouldn't have, but he was so desperate. He kept telling me, "Mom, I just need this one last loan. I'll win it back and pay you back with interest." But why didn't you tell me? Why did you watch me plan this perfect wedding knowing he was stealing money from both of us and sinking into debt that was putting us in danger? She wrung her hands. "He begged me, Clara. He said if I told you, he would lose you, and then he would lose his job, and then he would kill himself. He used suicide as leverage." I was so scared. I thought if I could just give him enough to win the big one, he would be safe, and you would be safe. The revelation was agonizing. Ethan hadn't just lied to me. He had emotionally blackmailed his own mother into becoming an accessory to his financial crimes. He had weaponized her maternal love. And the account, Patricia? Did he force you to put his name on it? "No," she confessed, her voice thick with shame. "I did it willingly. It was my mother's account before me. I told Ethan that if he put his name on it, I would know he was serious about being part of a family legacy. but it was my way of letting him have access without transferring all the money at once. I told him he could use it for emergencies. I never imagined he would drain it all. I closed the folder, sickened. The $40,000 from his mother, the $95,000 from me. Ethan's secret addiction had cost the two women who loved him nearly $135,000. He is in a rehab facility, I informed her. I have legal control of his finances. I have stabilized the situation with the loan sharks and the creditors for now. But I can't keep this lie going. You and your husband need to know that your son is not just a gambler. He's a thief who used emotional manipulation to steal your retirement. I stood up. I love the idea of the family I thought I married into, Patricia. But your son is not that man. I'm going to file for divorce as soon as I can ensure my financial safety and get all the money back that I can. As I was leaving, Patricia whispered one last thing that made my blood run cold. Clara, there is something else. The wedding. He wasn't paying for the open bar. He told me he'd won a small jackpot and was going to splurge. But he asked me to open a new credit card in my name, a temporary one, to cover the cost of the reception hall deposit. He promised to pay it off the week before the wedding. He never did. I stopped dead in my tracks. How much was the reception deposit, Patricia? $10,000, and the card is maxed out. They called me 2 days after the wedding, demanding the first payment. I panicked and paid it myself. $10,000. The perfect wedding day was built on one final act of deceit. The total cost of Ethan's lie had just ballooned to $145,000, with a $10,000 credit card in his mother's name still hanging over our heads. I left the cafe, the rain starting again, feeling completely isolated. I was married to a man who had not only stolen my money, but had put his mother into severe debt to fund his addiction. I was determined to get justice, not just for me, but for Patricia, too. The final confrontation was coming, and I knew I had to be the one to orchestrate it. 4 weeks after the aborted honeymoon, Ethan completed his initial inpatient rehab program. He called me, remorseful, tearful, and utterly dependent. He pleaded to come home, to start over. I agreed to meet him. Not at our apartment, but at a neutral, impersonal office space I rented for a single afternoon. I wanted the final confrontation to feel like a financial settlement, a business transaction, not a passionate reconciliation. I was waiting when he walked in. He looked healthier, but fragile. He tried to hug me. I put my hand up, stopping him. "Sit down, Ethan," I said, pointing to the chair across the table. I had arranged my evidence meticulously. The secret ledger, my bank statement showing the $95,000 loss. Patricia's bank statement showing the $40,000 loss, and the credit card statement for the $10,000 reception deposit. The total cost of his lies, $145,000. Clara, thank you for meeting me. I've changed. I swear, rehab. It saved me. I want us to fix this. I love you, and I am so sorry for everything I put you through. I held up the ledger. You put me through a financial and emotional war, Ethan. This isn't about us. This is about justice and the truth. I laid out the evidence, piece by piece. I didn't let him interrupt. I started with the $45,000 wedding fund, moved to the $35,000 inheritance I sacrificed, and then dropped the bombshell of the $15,000 theft from my separate investment account, the money he stole before he proposed. His face crumbled. He cried, begging for forgiveness. I was desperate. I was going to pay it all back. You weren't going to pay it back, Ethan. You were planning to use the wedding money for a final desperate gamble, and when that failed, you booked a solo first-class ticket to the Maldives to try again at an offshore casino. You planned to leave me alone, thinking I had a medical issue, while you risked every penny we had left. The shame was profound. He hid his face in his hands. Then I moved to his mother. I showed him Patricia's bank statement, the $40,000 withdrawal history, and the $10,000 credit card statement for the reception deposit. You didn't just steal from me, Ethan. You emotionally blackmailed your mother. You used her love and fear to steal her retirement fund. You convinced her to open a credit card to pay for our perfect reception, leaving her $10,000 in debt. His tears turned into ragged, gut-wrenching sobs. She shouldn't have told you. I was going to confess everything to her, to pay her back first. No, you weren't. You were focused only on your own safety, I stated coldly. You owe the two women who loved you the most a total of $145,000, and you owe them the complete truth. I pushed a single sheet of paper across the table. It was a formal document I had drafted with a lawyer. I am filing for divorce, Ethan, I announced, but I have two conditions, a non-negotiable ultimatum that dictates the rest of your life. And mine. He looked up, terrified. Clara, please, anything but a divorce. I will do anything. Good. Because this is the price of your freedom. First, I will agree to an uncontested, no-fault divorce only if you agree to this legally binding repayment plan. The document detailed that he would give me 80% of his future net income, after taxes and essential living costs, until the full $95,000 was repaid to me and the full $50,000 was repaid to his mother. This is not alimony. This is repayment for theft. My lawyer will ensure this is enforced until the last penny is returned to the women you stole from. He stared at the document, horrified. 80%. Clara, I can't live on 20%. I can barely afford the rent for the apartment we shared. You will live on 20% until you repay the women you bankrupted. That is the consequence of your choice. Then I delivered the second, more shocking condition, the one that ensured my peace and his total honesty. The second condition is this: you will go to your parents tonight. You will confess everything: the gambling, the $145,000 debt, the theft from me, and the emotional blackmail and theft from your mother. You will show them this document and you will apologize to your mother in front of your father. No, please, Clara, I can't tell Dad. It will kill him. It will destroy their retirement and their marriage, he pleaded, his voice breaking. You already destroyed their retirement, Ethan, when you drained Patricia's account. You just haven't told your father yet. The shame you feel right now is the price of the life you chose. If you refuse to confess the full truth to them, I will not only proceed with a contested divorce, but I will file a police report detailing the $15,000 theft from my private investment account and the financial fraud you committed against your mother. You will go to prison. It was a cold, brutal choice. Ruin by controlled debt repayment and public family shame, or ruin by jail time. He stared at the paper, tears running down his face. He knew I was serious. He had no leverage left. I owned him financially and legally. After a long, agonizing silence, he picked up the pen. With a shaking hand, he signed the documents agreeing to the repayment plan and the divorce. He stood up, defeated. "I'll go home now," he whispered. "I'll tell them tonight." I watched him walk out, a man who had gambled away his life on a single disastrous lie. I felt no triumph, only a profound sense of loss for the perfect life that was never real. I had saved myself and his mother. I was financially protected, and he was forced to face the truth. The perfect wedding day was just the perfect lie, and the honeymoon fund was merely the final shocking payment in a debt I never knew I owed.